So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Avatar. So let's start the series. He had slept for 4,000 years, during which time the world changed, ninjas disappeared, benders emerged, but there was still peace. Otherwise, would he wake up or not? Despite the fact that the world had been at war for a century, Tylee was a happy, energetic girl who never stopped grinning. It was admirable, but sometimes all she wanted was for someone to understand how miserable she was. It was a mixed gift for her to be able to read people's auras. She could sense their emotions, but only when it affected her. The truth was that her best friend was a violent, nearly insane firebender princess. Her parents were dead, and her siblings had been cruel and frequently mistreated her. She discovered a grotto a few years ago where she could be by herself without anyone knowing. It seemed odd, yet it worked perfectly for her. She had no idea that today would be different. I can't make any friends because they chase them away. Forget about having a boyfriend. Why me? Stupid sisters, it's not my fault they're no fun. She cried out as the cave floor suddenly collapsed behind her. She rubs her sore butt and looks around, thinking. I wonder how old this place is. It looks like the hallway of a really old mansion. As she walks down the hallway, she notices pictures of happy women and kids grinning, some of whom make her feel familiar. I wish I had that level of happiness. She asks. I wonder who they are. She finally reaches a big golden door after what feels like hours of traveling, and she unlocks it to enter. The walls are decorated with pictures of battles she has never heard of, enormous animals, and people with remarkable powers that seem to match the avatars. When she notices a bed that appears to be rather lovely, she asks herself, which kind of place is this? She looks at it curiously and discovers a man sleeping in it who appears to be a little older than she is. She decides to wake him up, but it turns out to be harder than she expected. Strange, this place seemed buried and yet you're breathing. Who are you? She asks. She's about to give up when she spots a strange seal on his stomach and reaches out to touch it. Excuse me? She asks as she feels a painful prick and collapses back into her but once again. She looks at the seal, absorbing the blood and starting to burn. Ugh, damn it, why do I feel like I overslept? The man asks as he sits up and opens his eyes. Aware of his presence, he turns to face the girl on the floor, who appears shocked. Hello, I'm sorry to bother you, but are you aware of any ongoing wars? Sate Unshfar 100 Jaren. Replies Naruto, as Tylee frowns at the man. Tylee becomes more perplexed. Maybe it's the seal I discovered on you. I found you here asleep and tried to wake you, but you didn't respond until that seal cut me and took my blood. Then it burned, and you woke up. Naruto shakes his head. Tylee stands up and stands behind him, saying, Crap, that implies someone schemed this, someone who was aware of me. Naruto looks up and says, Quick question, who are you, and what are you saying? Tylee's eyes widen. Sorry, you're right. I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze Shinju, nice to meet you. Naruto says. As Shinju? Like the god who has been dormant for 4,000 years. The deity representing nature and peace? Naruto beams. 4,000 years, huh? Heh, that's 3,000 more than God. Nice, yeah, that's me. And who are you? She blinks several times before replying. I'm Tylee. Nice to meet you, Tylee. How did you arrive here? I live on the island with my friends, but occasionally I need time to think things through. I also go to these places that nobody seems to know. Then the ground broke, and I was amazed by the pictures in the hall and found them. Said Naruto. Mean family. I've lived for 1,000 years and had 10 women and numerous lovers during that time. My Kindheitsstraum, a large family, just as I wanted it to be. With tears in her eyes and her eyes lowered, she asks, You're looking lonely and unappreciated. Do you want to share more about it? She tells him about her life thus far while perched on the side of the bed, including specifics about her family and friend Azula. As she listens and learns, Naruto asks, Although you seem happy, your life hasn't been joyful. It reminds me of my childhood. Were you saying you were admiring the weapons displayed on the walls here? Yes, I've always enjoyed knowing about firearms. The more unusual, the better. But these are unlike anything I've ever seen. She grins. Are you not in need because you are a young person? She nods and tilts her head in embarrassment. Naruto laughs. Hey Tylee, you don't happen to know the names Tenten and Rock Lee, do you? The names sound familiar, but I can't remember them. She thinks, laughing. They were good friends when I was a kid. I suppose you might be their descendant. How is that? Despite the fact that you are as much a part of your body as Tenten, your love for weapons is the same. And Rock Lee was truly unique. He had enormous eyes, a pizzeria, and a persistent sense of jug-end. He also fought terrible green Strumpfison. His teacher's Mato guy was the mini-itch. Thank you, you're not as far away as the two of you. She erred and shifted her feet. Why have you fallen asleep? As a deity, I am tempted to change the world. Naruto grinned. Although this would undoubtedly improve it, I believe it is preferable to limit my intervention to the areas I selected when I was still human, fostering peace and living a decent life. I brought about peace in my time and kept it going for almost 1,000 years. I slept, thinking that the world didn't need my help, only to wake up as a significant battle broke out. Once I almost woke up, but someone stopped me in time. What's changed here? I studied this, but information is limited because only the Fire Lord has all the records. Ty Lee grins. The ninjas vanished from the world around 1,000 years after you fell asleep. Nature awoke and produced spirits, and the world changed. They lived in harmony with humans for a while, but it was short-lived. A battle broke out, and a forest full of ghosts was devastated by fire. It seems that a bender lived in the wild after stealing power from a lion turtle, which was prohibited. Since we couldn't handle more than one element at a time, earth, air, fire, or water, all people lived on huge lion turtles at that time, which gave us the ability to bend. To begin the battle, a man went to each Schildkröte and took control of every element. Nobody knows how he did it, but with this force, he stopped his knees and turned himself into a ghost. However, these people lost their familiarity and returned to their own world. The first of the 4 elements, the Avatar, was a man who served as a bridge between the spirit and the human. Additionally, the Lowenschildkröten allowed the world to pass obligingly, allowing people to continue living in the Jetzig form. While not everyone can be Bandig, at least half of the population can be Bandig. You may still immerse all 4 in the Avatar. He is born again in the next country of the Zyklus, earth, water, fire, and air. It is the responsibility of each of these nations to maintain their equality and prevent war. But then things changed. The ruling Fire Lord decided to start a war around a century ago because he thought firebending was superior to all other bending skills. In order to break the cycle and stop the Avatar from emerging, he initially went after the air nomads. He discovered a comet, Susan's comet, and used its power to improve his skills. It's unknown if the Avatar survived, even though we know he wiped them off. He's been hiding for 100 years if he did. The conflict is still going on. The Northern Water Tribe and the majority of Earth Kingdom's cities are still there, while the Southern Water Tribe is all but extinct. I get it. Someone was careful. Based on what you said, only the Fire Lord could have done this. Azula, what about her? What sort of person is she? Nuda runzelt the stern. Nuda Freund, I hat Niemals Hylan. Mysens, she is friendly to her friends, but she can be grumpy, Jazernig, conceited, and self-centered. The children bring Verderben. Nuda takes a Lodeschaltung and tries to mobilize his energy, but part of it is blocked. Verdance missed, we befurcht, was? I was still unstable, but I lost some of my strength. I believe that Susan brought this siegel to prevent my Erwichin and to store my energy in a counter-state. He said. We am IT einem Kometen. But because of you, I'm awake now, and I'll get my power back when the comet gets closer. Nerda says, caressing Tylee's cheek and making her flush. All I need is time to learn the ways of this new era. Just ask if there's anything I can do to repay you. Tylee shuffles shyly and smiles. Would you go out with me? Frag Nerd asks. He says. How about we go on 1 or 2 dates and see how things develop? I look a little strange like this, therefore I may need a job to buy some clothes. Tylee, what are your thoughts? As Tylee joyously bounces about the room and he chuckles, she asks him. I was thinking of going into the circus, but perhaps we could try our hand at mercenary labor. You can choose your own jobs, and the money is good. Additionally, if a merc performs their duties effectively, no one will notice their strange attire. Nerdis smiles. You mean mercenary labor? I'm capable of doing it. Before the Shinju era, ninjas were essentially like that. Are you a bender though? No, but I have other abilities. As an acrobat, I am adaptable, quick, and well organized. I have excellent control over worlds and can block their flow by hitting certain nerves, which prevents Bender from moving forward, said Nerda. It's now possible to make mistakes. You also have a little Hinata. To your glory, when you're Jaman Mag, you are not equal in Onmacht. When I go out, I'll show you some of my old friends, if their portraits are still there. Some pictures of your wives and kids resembled me a bit. Are we related? Yo, why? Clan tradition. Clans often maintain such customs to ensure their strength and purity or to prevent the extinction of their bloodlines. I have my doubts. You don't exhibit any of the usual Uzumaki characteristics. If we are, it would be like a single drop in an ocean at this stage. In my time, people married their second cousins, so it wouldn't seem strange to me. As long as the people weren't closely connected, it didn't result in inbreeding, but it did happen occasionally. Come on, let's choose some weapons to bring along. If you're going to travel with me, I expect you to pick up some new skills. What are they? Tylee asks, pointing to 2 weapons on the wall that catch her eye, a small double-edged knife with a ring on the hilt, and a 4-point bladed star. The most basic weapons of a shinobi, kunai and shuriken, are distractions but can deal serious damage when thrown with accuracy. Tenten was deadly with any weapon that had a blade, but she was especially good with these. The kunai can be used as a weapon for close combat, as a throwing knife, or even as a digging tool when necessary. The ring on the pommel can be used to strike an opponent, or attach wire for tying them from a distance. Naruto picks up a couple of kunai and 6 shuriken, then expertly TOS them into the head of a nearby training dummy. Will you das here? Pointing to a long metal needle. Senbon, mostly used by medical ninja, is perfect for striking nerves from a distance to cause someone to become incapacitated, unconscious, or in a death-like state. Poisons can be applied to it just like you can to any blade. Given your experience with nerve strikes, I think this would be a perfect fit for you. Hundreds of Saban and another pouch holding kunai and shuriken have been sealed away by Naruto. Sealing seems to be a lost art now. It was what made the Uzumaki great. Sealing could do many things, from sealing items in a scroll to healing, temporarily boosting a person's power, and even sealing a demon within a human. That's just the beginning. Ty Lee asks. Are those enormous creatures what's depicted in the paintings? Murmurs Ty Lee. In response, Naruto said. Yes, the Biju were actually a part of the Shinju and weren't really Daimonin. When Kagaya used his power against them, they absorbed him and transformed themselves into an Unshiwer, the Jubi. The Shinju's spirit was taken away from them, and the oldest son turned them into the first Jinchuriki. On his third bet, he used his strength to prevent the Unshiwer from occurring by splitting his power into new parts and giving them shape and consciousness. Where did the moon spirit come from, then? Naruto responds. After I became a god, I took the body of the Jubi and removed the remains of the old Shinju and Kagaya from it. She willed into existence a monster that caused those things to happen in her desperation prior to being sealed. But it was too polluted to go back to her, so I imprisoned her inside the moon once more. Her body gradually came back to life and acquired a new will and vitality. I think she or her descendant eventually evolved into the moon spirit that we know today. Wow, Naruto says, nodding. Now that you have your long-range option, we should look for something short, light, and fast. You find Tenten's use of a bow staff or club to be overly inflexible. Perhaps, yes, claws. Naruto approaches a table containing a set of hand claws, each with 4 curved blades, and smiles as he lifts them and shows them to Ty Lee, who comments. Beautiful. A deathbed gift from Hinata's daughter. Hijiri was a good-natured girl with a sharp tongue. These blades were made in the same forges as the 7 blades of the mist under that belief. Naruto says. Her father, Kiba, had them made for her. The day she became a trained ninja filled him with great joy. Looks like a family heirloom to me, mutters Naruto. And her last wish was for me to give them to someone I thought would use them appropriately, which I have now done. Do you really mean that? A number of strange-looking weapons are exposed when Naruto makes hand signals and then bangs his hands into what appears to be an empty wall. His mother's sword, his father's kunai, his sensei's mask, his third wife's dagger, his first son's claws, and his armor. Fairly certain there was a wall previously, Gen Spirit Art. You merely thought a wall existed, concealed within an illusion, one of the 5 essential ninja arts, Tai Spirit, Ni Spirit, Gen Spirit, Ken Spirit, and Fuin Spirit Art. Your ancestors were Tai Spirit and Ken Spirit Art masters, mine were Ken Spirit and Fuin Spirit Art masters, and I also excelled in Ni Spirit Art. But I couldn't use Gen Spirit Art until later in my mortal life. Why? I'll explain it during your training, he says with a smile. Before we depart, I would want to show you my oldest pals. The first rule of ninja is to look underneath the underneath, Naruto says, opening a hidden door and grinning at Ty Lee. What does it signify? She knits her brows. At first, I also didn't get it. A ninja's life is fundamentally characterized by deception. Therefore, if you cannot discern when someone is lying, it could lead to your death or the death of another. It goes beyond just ninjas, if my life is any indication. Naruto pauses and frowns as if deep in thought. A tale for another occasion, he says. Here, the Hyde Ninja Village 12. Naruto grins after passing through the secret hallway for about 20 minutes. My classmates from the academy and on the other side are those who won a place in my heart but not of the 12. He says. Why were they brought together? To graduate from the academy and become a genin, you must pass an exam each year. But this is only the beginning. Your designated Jounin sensei determines your genin level. Graduation does not automatically make you one. Only 9 of us, including me, passed the test that year. 6 months later, the training ninja tests were held, which was already rare. It's rare for one rookie team to enter, but that year 4 teams did, so we became known as the Hyde Ninja Village 12. Sounds like your senseis were lazy, chuckles Naruto. Kurenai was a bit of an overbearing mother figure for her team, and Guy was crazy as a loon, but yeah, Kakashi and Asuma were lazy like a Nara. Nara? Naruto points to Shikamaru, who appears drowsy in the photo. Shikamaru and Nara, the Nara clan were the strategists of Hyde Ninja Village, each one a genius but they were incredibly lazy. If they weren't sleeping or staring at clouds, they were complaining about something being troublesome or a drag. He says. Naruto nods and laughs. And here are Tenten and Lee. Ty Lee smiles at her ancestors and says. I always figured she'd end up with Niji, but he ended up with a civilian girl. It's not very Hyuga of him, but they changed a lot after the Exodus. Du hattest recht, ich from Michigan, das ich we tent in Aussie, he says. Exodus? My lineage became public knowledge after I was exiled from Hyde Ninja Village, and all laws that maintained my secret status were revoked. Naruto responds. Many people who knew my parents were horrified by the way I was treated, but they were unable to take action because of legal limitations. Many came to live and work in Yuzu when it started to be restored. The majority of people left Hyde Ninja Village in a mass exodus 5 years after I finished my training and gained the Shinju's power. I'm surprised that didn't start a war. That would have destroyed the village, Naruto says. If someone else had been headmaster, you'd be right, but I left enough money for Hyde Ninja Village's economy to recover over time, and the exodus was gradual, so they managed the changes effectively. Hyde Ninja Village survived until I fell asleep and was stronger than ever by then. Who is the headmaster, and what is their role? It's no wonder you don't know. One of the main settlements is led by Kage, also known as Shadow. 5 significant villages existed prior to Yuzu's reconstruction. In addition to Headmaster or Fire Shadow, Reikage or Lightning Shadow, Mizukage or Water Shadow, Kazakage or Wind Shadow, and Tsuchikage or Stone Shadow, I was later referred to as the Yuzukage or Whirl Shadow. A Kage could only be governed by a land's daimyo, unless they granted their council excessive freedom, but that's a story for another time. As the strongest ninja in a village, a Kage served the people, and that role shaped my childhood. Don't get me wrong, these were ninja villages, so even with civilians present, we operated as a military dictatorship. Hiruzen Sarutobi was the headmaster when I was a child, he said, gesturing to a picture of an old man. He died during the training ninja exams when a new village and an ally invaded, killed by his own student. The new headmaster after him was 5th Headmaster Senju, one of the 3 Sannin and my godmother, though I didn't know it at the time. Tai Li grinned. Who are the others here? He asked, pointing to each of them. Kiba Inuzuka, whose clan specialized in tracking and animalistic Tai spirit arts, worked with Nikin bred to be stronger and smarter than ordinary dogs. Kiba was a decent guy but somewhat arrogant, always considering himself an alpha, as he would say. Kiba was also a womanizer and a pervert, having a crush on Hinata, who ironically was one of the few girls safe from his advances. They were married soon after me and Samui. The Aburame clan's expert in creating insect spirit art was Shino Aburame. Their bugs lived inside them, making them special as living colonies. In return for the bugs consuming their core energy, they conversed with them and engaged in combat with them. The Aburame were very rational people, frequently possessing almost the same level of intelligence as Inara. They were devoted friends despite their quiet demeanor and eerie appearance. Tai Li complains, I don't think I could get past the bug thing. Naruto laughs. Many felt the same way, and I always appreciated that they never held it against anyone. Even though they never expressed it, the Aburame were actually very understanding of me as a child considering my upbringing. A civilian-born clanless ninja with extraordinary intelligence, Sakura Haruno can be a little slow to pick up on concepts that aren't found in books. Since she never trained and was constantly swooning over Naruto, she could be classified as a fangirl for a long time. She was so enamored that if I expressed any talent or disparaged him, she would strike me. Later on, it was found that because of her low reserves, her core energy management was almost perfect. She started concentrating more on her studies and joined the 5th Headmaster's Medical Ninja Apprentice program. In the end, she outperformed her master in every way. After the tests, I moved past my crush on her from when we were in the academy. Ultimately, she fulfilled her lifelong ambition of marrying Naruto. Tai Li heard wrath in his voice, but she didn't say anything because she thought he would explain. You can deduce a lot of what I would say about Shikamaru because I have already discussed the Nara with you. He was a great friend who was the first to understand me. He was the first of us to train ninjas, and he was one of the first to volunteer when I asked for assistance in creating Yuzu. He oversaw my funds for the duration of the project with his future bride. He wed Tamari Sabaku, the Kazakage's sister. She is a strong, independent lady and an exceptional ninja who would defeat anyone who dared to suggest otherwise. She was among the most effective wind users of the time, aside from me. Aktie auf den Gedenken! Hihihi Aberja, ich have solche gerucht auch von seiner zukünftigen Frau, grumbles Tai Li. Wow, der ist ja fett, grumbles Naruto. That is a Merkmal de clans. The Akimichi utilize a form of spirit art to their Perintweeter Talwise oder ganz an unglaublich grow to Vigrieren. His father could be so much like a Biju. The issue was that they had a huge amount of energy. Speaking of which, Ino Yamanaka is another Naruto fangirl in the academy. She is smart and similar to Sakura in many ways, but she is not as violent or abusive. The Yamanaka clan was known as mind walkers because of their spirit art, which affected the mind. Their most notable ability was to transfer their consciousness into another person, which allowed them to control or access their memories. But this technique had limitations. Anything that happened to the possessed person also affected the Yamanaka's physical body, which went completely limp while someone else controlled it. As a result, the combination attacks of the Ino Shikacho team were effective. Akimichi finishes off what was left after Yamanaka takes control of someone and turns them against their allies, and Naruto's shadow spirit art immobilizes an opponent. You could destroy an army with a combo like that, says Naruto. And that's exactly what their fathers did, forming that team. Though officially they were a capture and interrogation team. He laughs. Niji Hyuga, Hinata's cousin from the Hyuga branch family, was angry at the main family as a child, especially at Hinata. He even attempted to kill her during the second phase of the training ninja exams. Why? Asks Naruto, sighing. The clan had a twin. Hizashi was Niji's father. When a Kumo ninja who was a diplomat targeted Hinata for kidnapping as a child, Hayashi killed him, and Kumo demanded his head. Tai Li continues. However, since she was his twin, they proposed his brother instead, which angered Niji. Naruto responds. That sums it up, but there are more details. The branch family's duty is to protect the main family. Every branch member is branded with a seal that has the power to induce agony or death at pleasure. Kumo is unable to get the Byakugan since the eyes of the deceased who has this seal are sealed and destroyed. Byakugan? The Hyuga bloodline, along with the Sharingan and Rinnegan, members of the trio known as the Three Great to Spirit Art. He complains. It's a little too complicated for me. With time and training, you'll understand it, but this information has been lost for thousands of years, so it's no wonder. In the third phase of the exams, I defeated Niji and changed his outlook on fate, which made him a better person. I also revoked the Hyuga clan's rights to the caged bird seal while I was in exile, since it belonged to the Uzumaki and was my right to revoke it. In the second phase, Lee, who was second in speed only to his teacher at the time, stunned everyone by removing his weights and creating a huge crater upon their drop. Lee was born with a genetic condition that affected his core energy coils and limited his use of core energy to basic functions. He wanted to become a remarkable ninja like his teacher through the Tai spirit art, but he ended up being an almost exact replica of his teacher, which was quite unsettling. Niji was considered a genius, but Lee was a genius of diligence. Tenten Higurashi, another civilist and the daughter of the owner of Higurashi's Waffenja skull, developed a love for weapons in her early years that was so quick that she could handle them like a lover. Until her move to Yuzu, she was known as the Waffenmeisterin of the Hyde Ninja Dwarfs. Nobody, not even the teacher or the Umbu, knew more about weapons than she did. We frequently wondered if Tenten had a nickname because she had a perfect 10 out of 10. Last but not least, Naruto and Uchiha. The excerpt from the image screamed arrogance and word, and Tai Li said, It seems like someone after my sleep had developed a new has on him, or one of his descendants. In any case, he was Urzujin, talented, and stark to be, but not distinguishable. Arrogant and demanding like everyone else, he had chosen his older, talented brother and his clan, and as a result, he was made worse. Verwant Uendi Wutend. He swore rake, which is a dangerous thing for Uchiha. At this point, he was my teammate and rival. After the tests, he was allowed to leave the village and bury at Orochimaru for mocked. Many of my classmates, including myself, followed the headmaster's instruction to apprehend him. The Sound Five, a powerful team of ninjas under Orochimaru's command, opposed us. I pursued Naruto's pal while my colleagues dealt with them. I brought him back to the community after defeating him. I was called into the council chambers a week later. It appears that the civilian council notified the daimyo over my expulsion from Hyde Ninja Village without consulting the fifth headmaster. To their ire, Naruto's friend was neutered and had his core energy sealed in order to foil his and Orochimaru's schemes. Tai Li frowns once more and says, I guess that's for later too. But Naruto gives her a hug and assures her. Don't worry, I'll tell you everything in due time. She nods and smiles, saying, Is this what you were referring to regarding healing, Naruto friend? After becoming a god, I thought he was deserving of another chance. He had changed so much that he even offered me an apology, something I thought would never happen. She asks. Naruto smiles and nods. He married Sakura after I healed him, and he even pardoned his brother for getting married to Shizen. Shizen? He asks, gesturing to a picture next to the fifth headmaster's. She was his first apprentice, the niece of the fifth headmaster's late partner, his longtime assistant, and the custodian of the legendary Sucker herself, fifth headmaster Senju. Sucker of legend? I snorted. What did she do to earn that name? She had two passions, gambling and drinking. Sadly, she was just very good at drinking. Every time she won at gambling, bad things happened to her. Before becoming headmaster, she overshadowed figures like Pervy Sage and Orochimaru as her debts grew, and she became renowned throughout the 5 countries as the fabled Sucker. Sage, are you a pervert, or a Kipido? Naruto smiles. Pervy Sage, recognized as the legendary Sannin of the Sannin, served as my father's teacher, and was also his godfather. Nevertheless, I still don't feel pity for the man due to his actions. Once more, a tale for later. Orochipido, known as Orochimaru of the Sannin, was the most infamous traitor to the leaf until Itachi. He was known for having a fondness for young boys, and with his serpent-like demeanor and way of speaking, one could wonder about the truth of it. Tai Li giggles. Ninjas are strange. Naruto laughs. Once more, you don't understand. They reach a blocked door that is obstructing their path as they continue into the tunnel. The door opens into the sunlight after Naruto wipes some blood off it. Tylee steps out, glances back, and the door closes, changing its appearance to match the surrounding rock wall. More spirit-based art? Tarn Sielchen, na dran, gleichs Konzept, UND das Sielchen? Hey, we are in the vicinity of my home, she said and nicked. The blood cell can only be used for me or my family, unless I add another person's blood to the array, she says. Hey, what's the matter? She asks, noticing that Naruto is crying. Nix ernstes, ich sch, es war zu viel verlangt, das ein Imperium lyals ein paar tausend Jar H, she says and shot sin. Sich die Tronen abwischt. Could you clarify what you mean? She knits her brows. This island might have changed, but it's still Yuzu, my family's home, she says as she gives him another hug and apologizes. Who is the big baby, Tylee? A mate of yours? 5 other girls giggle, and Naruto, holding back his tears, looks at them, frowning at each of them, almost the same. Bullies, he hates bullies, he says softly so they can't hear. Are these girls your sisters? She nods. Her parents made her seem like just another member of the big family, which made her the boss. The oldest needed the most attention, and Tylee, being the youngest and most attractive, was just a bug to be trodden on. What a jerk she is to ignore her. She growls. Yes, I am her boyfriend, but I don't appreciate your insensitivity to my pain or your bullying of your family. What's it to you? She approaches from behind and reaches for her hair, saying, Answer me, worm. But Naruto grabs her hand and stops her. She makes her second mistake and looks into his cold eyes, seeing death and suffering inside, before backing away. For me, family is the most important thing. I've been without them for a long time. There was a lot of hatred and distrust. Man has been looking for me to umzbringen, but he has rejected me, trained me, and made me strong. I have gained my family and have lived a happy life with them. That's why I'm grateful when Jaman visits his family. Take care of your family because you might lose them one day. She stared into his eyes as he spoke, and when they briefly changed shape, she saw glimpses of his existence, and realized that hell existed. His remarks had a profound effect on her. That was harder than he remembered. As he left with Tylee, she lay on the ground and her sisters asked her if she was well, and she screamed. What was that? Naruto, breathing heavily, says. Jane A has never sobbed in my company. It's a spirit art performed through the eyes, but it's exhausting for me because of my condition. I refined it with Kurenai and Itachi, and it's based on the Uchiha spirit art Tsukuyumi. As I spoke, she saw important moments from my life, mostly flashes. Let's just say it wasn't pretty. I hope she absorbs the lesson and realizes the value of family. Tylee grins and gives him a hug. So where to next? Tylee asks in response. The words, Ein Ort, der mir alles kein Angst einjagt, are said by Naruto and Lel. Ein Bibliothek, she said, seemingly bewildered. She calls him Ein Bibliothek and guides him to the Incel Bibliothek. Naruto smiles and explains. It's the oldest building on the island and is said to be modeled after an ancient civilization. Really? It's an Uzumaki design. He was already well when they got there. Naruto grinned as he entered and said, I didn't expect to see the old Uzumaki. Without seals and at a high price, it is difficult to make it look so nice. Tazuna managed to do it thanks to his extraordinary building skills. I wonder what happened to little Inari. You are in for a treat, my specialty spirit art. Naruto exclaims, laughing and rubbing his hands joyfully, making a cross with his fingers that makes more than 100 copies of himself appear. Tylee's mouth dropped to the ground. WW what? The Shadow Clone spirit art, which involves splitting core energy evenly among clones, enables the creation of a solid clone that possesses your memories and transmits anything it sees or hears back to your mind upon dispelling. Although it is intended for reconnaissance and spying, I utilize it more than anyone else. I use it for training and to read a large volume of text simultaneously. Nerd says. He remarks, my control must be worse than I thought. I could get double that on my first try. With a chuckle, Tylee walks over to the clone and lightly taps its head, causing it to vanish. 1,000 years and I haven't figured out why some of them behave that way, he says with a stirring voice. Since you mentioned that they have your memories, do you believe it constitutes a part of your personality? Naruto nods his head. It was just one theory, but some of them did things I wouldn't do even if my life depended on it. It crossed my mind that it could be the QB's influence, but that theory was also disproven. The only explanation I can think of is that the spirit art has some inherent flaw, considering I can produce far more than the creator anticipated. By whom was it made? She pouts. It sounds a little like Azula. Naruto laughs and responds. It's funny you mention that. He despised Uchiha more than most. That's significant considering the Senju and Uchiha were long-standing rival clans engaged in constant warfare before the villages were established. He despised them, yet they shared many commonalities. That's ironic. And if this Azula is indeed a descendant of Naruto's friend, as I suspect, then it's even more fitting. She says. Tylee engages in yoga and acrobatics while Nuda meditates for 2 hours. Following his meditation, Nuda gives her a smile and remarks, "You have wonderful balance." She grins back at him and replies, "Thanks. To date, how much have you read?" "The majority of my clones are fertile. Only a few are left in the story. I was never a history buff. The people who frequently Mogan are transformative sleep aids. On the other hand, I find more detailed information on this." "Yes." Tylee slaps the Shultern and something troubles her gaze. "What a lovely way to put it," the Seeger writes the story. "The Fuhrer Nation believes that she is the best, and every story that has been written there is appropriately titled in their libraries, which sounds good but isn't often accurate. Perhaps a more accurate historical account would be more beneficial in the real world." Nuda shows her how much has changed by placing a map of the countries on the table. It appears as though the land masses drastically shifted and the continent fractured. Grumbles, "This map is 1,000 years old and, as far as I know, it's still quite accurate. Is it really that different?" Nuda opens a map and comments, "Indeed, the Fire Nation has drifted far to the west. Lightning and most of the smaller nations have merged into stone and become earth. Water divided to the north and south, placing Yuzu within fire. Wind separated to the east and west, turning into air. It's as if something altered how the world operates, causing the spirits to object and divide the world." Tylee concurs, saying that a change like that, unless it occurred over a millennium or was intended, would annihilate millions. Humanity would have become an endangered species. They existed prior to the Avatar's time. Nuda replies, "There's no way to know what survives in a cycle of rebirth like that. Most people think it's nonsense, but I doubt the Avatar knows about the legends that support such ideas. For that kind of power, Orochimaru would have killed, and I am certain that he did." He gets over his melancholy thoughts, gathers his belongings, and faces Tylee. "Okay, I'm set to go. Where do you think we should head?" Tylee thinks and taps her chin. "The Air Nation is gone, and the Water Nation has been somewhat withdrawn lately. The Fire Nation feels a bit too near for me at the moment, so why not venture into the Earth Nation?" Nuda concurs with a nod and inquires, "Do you have anything to take care of before we depart?" She scowls. "I have to pack and say goodbye to my sisters, even though I may not like them." Tylee reddens as Nuda smiles and says, "Family matters even if you're not fond of them. I'm starting to like you more and more." They reach Tylee's home just before dusk. While she packed, Nuda waits outside. She's almost done when Jane frowns and walks in, asking, "What are you doing? A Bryson? And my teen, you haven't met him yet. He may be adorable, but what exactly appeals to you about him?" "Well, we'll see. I'm strong, intelligent, self-assured, and most importantly, I don't fear my family." Embarrassed, Jane bows her head. Tylee walks up to Jane and gives her a hug. "I know I haven't been a good sister, but I can't let you leave with him. You don't even know him. This is my choice, but I will always love you. Goodbye, Jane." Tylee and Jane hurry out the door. Nuda frowns and adds, "I have no choice but to challenge him if you won't listen to me." "Why?" "She is my sister, and she doesn't know you. How can we be certain that you can protect them? She may trust you, but are you strong enough to keep her safe? Show it to me. Had Sie Denselben still we do?" Alassane asks Nuda. Nuda laughs. "Yeah, I'm more agile and flexible, but she's stronger. Strength isn't always the best option." He takes a position that none of them have ever seen as he advances. Even in his debilitated state, Jane appears to be moving in slow motion as she charges at him while adopting the familial posture. What follows is a one-sided beating rather than a challenge or a fight. He launches himself into action, knocking her off balance with a spiral sweep of his arms before striking her arms. She is left stunned and weak in a crater when he flips and presses his foot into her abdomen. Drawing a loose connection to the Goken, I was correct about your lineage. Rock Lee would be embarrassed by your slowness, while Tenten would disapprove of your lack of respect, yet they would both take pride in your familial devotion. When you next encounter Tylee, she will be almost unrecognizable to you. She will possess strength beyond your imagination. Until that moment comes, I vow to safeguard her, and Uzumaki never breaks a promise." "Ich have so etwas nach nie gesehen?" Tylee asks as she turns away. "Was there a war? Yuzukin, Spiral Fist. My mother created it, and it instilled fear in others. Mado Gai was her student and adapted the Goken from it, sacrificing lateral mobility for increased strength and speed. Only an Uzumaki can wield the true Yuzukin, so he fashioned the Goken to resemble it. Your family style is loosely based on the Goken as I mentioned with other elements incorporated. It appears that we have a lot to be thankful for from your friends and family," she said. "That's what happens when you save and change the world. Even throughout my lifetime, I witnessed how certain well-known people's influence persisted after their deaths. For example, the village system was established because of the first headmaster. That makes sense. What should we do now since it's too late to catch a boat, and I would rather not go back?" Nuda grinned as he got closer to the pier and remarked, "Watch." He creates a wooden house in front of them by making hand signals and slamming his palms into the sand. At full power, not much, but yes, there will always be something I can't do. He laughs. Wow, is there anything you can't do? For example, I'm quite impatient. I suppose that's an Uzumaki trait, but it seems like I'm worse than my mother. I still have trouble sitting still, but I've gotten better, she says with a big smile. He nods as they walk into the building, saying, I can relate. That is the effect of Lee. He began performing one-arm push-ups as soon as he was able to move after the Sand King broke his spine and crushed one arm and one leg. She laughs, then takes a short breath when she sees the house. I know people who would kill for a place like this, wow. It's roomy and has a pleasant atmosphere despite being modest, she remarks. A house made with wood style always feels that way because it draws heavily from nature, he says. At his next comment, she flushes. You mean we're not sharing a bed? Come on, wait until you see the bedrooms. Well, Tylee, aren't we feeling forward? Nerd asks, raising an eyebrow. Not like that, I just have never had a boyfriend before. I want to cuddle. Nerd gives her a hug and a kiss on the head, to which she responds. It's fine, I was just kidding. Sure, if you're at ease enough to do so. When they hear a hard knock on the door, Nerd moans. Never was a morning person. Tylee laughs. Pack your stuff, I expect that's someone upset about us being here. She nods, picks up her bag, and joins him at the door. When he opens it, 2 Fire Nation troops are visible. He narrowed his gaze and the troops obeyed. Can I help you? Why have you built this house here? This land is owned by the Fire Lord. Apologies, I didn't know. Take a step back for a second, and I'll fix that. Then, as though it were retreating, the house dwindled and disappeared into the sand, and their eyes grew wide. Dusting off his hands and grinning, he says, Sorry for the inconvenience, we'll be heading out now. Before he has taken 10 steps, the soldier calls out for him to stop, to which he groans. Yes? How about enlisting in the army of the Fire Nation? There are a lot of options. On the one hand, I'm not a Fuhrerbalager, which means that my strength or weakness is constantly diminished and kept at bay by Macht. If you're against the Fire Nation, you're an enemy. With a growl, he turns to face the man and asks, What will it take for you to leave me alone? Before a fireball bursts over his head. Ich for der Dike zu einer Agnikai heraus. Zu was? The second soldier, sweating, turns to Tylee and asks, Is he for real? Agnikai is primarily a fire duel. It's a way to settle disputes one-on-one, primarily used by members of the royal family and high-ranking officers to regain their honor after being slandered, but it's not uncommon in lower ranks as well. She shrugs, unable to elaborate. So it doesn't matter if I'm not a bender, as long as I fight and knock him on his ass? Asks Nruda, nodding to indicate that he understands. More or less the point. She nods in acknowledgement. He's acting as if this is no problem. The second soldier says with a disgruntled expression. Is he truly that talented? Do you know Jane A? He asks, nodding. Don't you think that's true for everyone on Ember Island? She issued him a challenge yesterday. She smirks. What was his performance like? He asks, frowning even more. He left her in a crater, defeated her in less than 2 seconds, and looked effortless. She didn't even come close to making contact with him. Tylee adds, This might be fun to watch then. As the man, who seems to be losing color beneath his mask, smiles broadly. I take it that you don't like your friend? He's no friend. He continued, shaking his head. But he is a skilled bender. His father is a high-ranking general, and that has made him conceited. I can hardly tolerate him at any time. The firebender throws a fireball at Tylee, who squints as Nerdu imitates her stance. Nerdu dodges the blow and charges at the man, kicking him several times in the chin to propel him higher into the air before leaping off the ground behind him, trapping him in bandages and spinning him in a tornado until he crashes headfirst into the sand. Nerdu flips backward into his stance as the man passes out. Did he defeat Jane in that manner? The man nods. No, he used something different, but this was equally remarkable. I don't believe he enjoys wasting time in a fight unless he's having fun. Skilled combatant. Hey Nerdu, what was that? It resembled my style. Was that Goken? He nods. Yes, it is the primary lotus in the Goken style. Your speed and power will treble when you open the first core energy gate, allowing you to use primary lotus. That collision would have killed him in any other setting, but on this soft sand, he will simply wake up with a headache and a strained neck. Yes, when you're ready. The gates are regarded as kin spirit art because they put a lot of strain on the body. Opening all 8 will make you equal to a god, but it will cost you your life. Kin spirit art? Forbidden spirit art, it's not what it seems. Only 1 or 2 spirit arts have been deemed truly forbidden for moral reasons, and those are kin spirit art because of their cost. This cost can be high core energy like my shadow clone, damage to the body like the Reaper Death Seal, if you're curious. What time does the training start? Once we get to the Earth Nation, I'll have to retrain some of my skills too. We need a place where we won't attract too much attention or cause any damage, so a boat isn't suitable. She nods, and they head to the pier to reserve a ferry. Over the course of the week-long journey, they get to know each other quite well, and Naruto tells her stories about the history of ninja and their actions, some of which surprise her a little but not too much. She talks to him about her family and the Fire Nation, and he is relieved to hear that things aren't completely bad. After another week, they reached a remote valley far from any towns, where they started their training. Naruto started by controlling his core energy and redrawing his resistance seals, which seemed to have faded over time. With Tylee, he concentrated on unlocking her core energy, which took little time because of her knowledge of the human body and chi, the new term for core energy, which was different but had the same mechanics, so he thought the process would be the same. She started practicing the first control exercise, leaf balance, after he had her unlock her core energy, or chi. It took her a day to become proficient in it, and he said, "Nice, it took me a month to learn that." She was shocked and said, "Really? For what purpose?" Greater core energy equates to diminished control. Conversely, less core energy results in greater control. Take Sakura, for instance. Her reserves were minimal, yet her control was impeccable. I could use spirit art all day long, but she managed to perform one with considerably less core energy. So does that imply I'll never possess a large amount of core energy? He sighs. No, like anything, you can train it. The more you use it, the more you'll get back. Also, you don't actually have core energy like I do, you have chi. Is it different? I don't see why we shouldn't refer to it as core energy, he shrugs. It feels different. There's a different energy, but the pathways and workings are the same. This notion is demonstrated by the leaf balancing experiment. It wouldn't function at all if it didn't function in the same manner. Think about this. You might be able to use numerous pieces like I do if it works exactly the same way. With the exception of the avatar, you would be the first in thousands of years. Her eyes enlarge. Really? Nice. Her enthusiasm is infectious. In the Hyde Ninja Village, one of the requirements for Jounin rank was to master 2 or more elements. Only a few, like the Hyuga, were exceptions as they did not use conventional spirit art. So what elements were there? The fundamental elements that everyone could learn were earth, wind, fire, water, and lightning. After that came the sub-elements. Tile element? What's that? Keki Genkai or Bloodlinian? We das Byakugan, he gives a nod. Some bloodlines permitted a dispirit art, while others allowed for things like absorbing nature energy to become a super-powered berserk monster, or becoming super fast and turning to smoke. Then there were the sub-elements. The first one I heard of was wood style, though it wasn't the first one I saw. You use wood style, don't you? He smiles and responds. What other ones are there? To mention a few, ice, boil, lava, explosion, and crystal are among the more intriguing. Why do they have the name sub-elements? Because you can only use one element at a time, they are considered bloodlines. You need a bloodline to combine elements in your body. Earth and water join to form wood, water and wind combine to form ice, earth and lightning combine to form crystal, earth and fire combine to form lava, and fire and water mix to form boil. She nods. If wood wasn't the first one you saw, which was? He smiles at the memory and tells Wave about his first C-rank mission. Wow, Haku seems like a nice girl. Wait, isn't she one of the girls in the hallway I came in from? He nods, adding. Back then I had many girls who genuinely loved me, and it wasn't just crushes. I made it clear that Samui always came first, but they wanted to be with me. Heh, Samui changed their minds when she got kinky. No girl was purely straight after she was done with them. Tylee blushes. Why did Haku assert that he was a boy? Naruto sighs. Well, Zabuza was never much of a girl person, and she didn't want to burden him with that. Besides, one of the Kunoichi's biggest fears was capture and rape, so pretending to be a boy reduced the likelihood. Why would people do that? He laughs and replies. I'm not claiming it's correct, but it did occur. There were definitely worse outcomes. So, I'm nearly scared to inquire, but like? Breeders, do you recall what I mentioned about Hinata's abduction by Kumo? Replied. Although eyes can be transplanted, they will never perform as well in a non-Hyuga. In order to include the Byakugan in their ranks, Kumo looked for a Hyuga girl to serve as a breeder. Tylee snarls. They tried this with my mother too, but my father saved her. Disgusting. Maybe, but customizing a weapon is a tactical tactic. They believed that the means were justified by the ends. Thankfully, Kumo lost faith in the third Reikage following the Hyuga event and had him put to death. That practice halted because the fourth was a lot better person, even though he was a bit of a brute. It would have been a lot worse, so I'm simply relieved that such things stopped happening with the shinobi from this battle. Tylee says. I want you to master the next exercise before I teach you the 3 Academy Spirit Arts, so I'll start you on it tomorrow. What is the next exercise? Naruto grins, walks over to a tree, and slowly climbs the trunk to stand under a branch upside down. Wow. After a week. Naruto grins at Tylee as she attempts to balance while standing on water, stating. Nice. It usually takes most people months to reach this stage, But you've accomplished it in just a week. You have talent. He laughs when she gives him a quick smile before plunging into the sea. He gives her a towel when she reaches the shore and says, "Don't worry," with a smile. "It will come easily if you practice it enough." "Are you serious? This is unimaginable to me." He paused before speaking. "Why not? You carry out your everyday tasks without conscious thought, and even though you are capable of punching someone, do you ever need to do so in the heat of the moment? How about breathing?" She looks at him in surprise, then frowns as she thinks about it. She shrugs, then smiles and asks, "All right, what's next?" "My favorite subject is knee spirit art," he says with a smile. Tylee's training was going well, and she had avoided towns and people for a month. They were prepared to begin looking for jobs, and Nerda's core energy control was once again matching his expectations. In a Fire Nation outpost, they happened upon a tiny pub. The pervy sage always said that the best place to find leads or information was either a brothel or a bar. "Since I'm not really into the brothel thing, let's grab a drink," Tylee suggested. "Personally, I have nothing against brothels, but I'm not interested in the kinds of people you find there," she continued. "Would you be surprised to learn that I was nearly brought up by the women of the red light district?" she asks, raising an eyebrow as Nerda smiles and puts his arm around her waist. "Indeed it would. However, it's not the kind of stuff that legends are built of. Sometimes the devil wears nice clothing." A rather ominous woman smiles at them from the bar. "Then you are familiar with people." He chuckles. "The best people are sometimes found dirty in the gutter. You create a lovely image." She smirks. "I would have said the truth is found in darkness, but I developed a poetic streak some time ago. My name is June." Nerda gives her a handshake. "Nerda. I'm Tylee. We are mercenaries seeking employment. Since Tylee is just starting out, I would take on a few bodyguards or capture bounties first. Although I'm primarily a bounty hunter, I take on mercenary work when I can't find anything better. There is no shortage of it in the Earth Nation. What do you specialize in? Assassin? Leadwater? Spionage? In my opinion, I'm fine with anything, but I avoid assassination unless I believe the victim deserves it or it serves a greater purpose." "You're not a religious fanatic, are you? Is all that praise directed to the almighty log idiots? Just to be clear, what do you mean by higher purpose? Snortet, und Tylee Kichert. Neen, ich mein nur, wenn das Toten eines einzelnen Mans 100 oder sogar einem ganzen Nation das Leben, selbst wenn der Typ echt netter Curl, Schluss mit dem Leben. Also ein Prinzipienmensch?" For a brief moment, Nerda's eyes darken, and Tylee realizes that he is reliving a painful memory. "No, I've just killed far too many innocents because of orders from those who shouldn't have been able to give them." "So you're a man with regrets?" "I can relate. Anyway, in every town and city you visit, there will be a board displaying job offers. This kind of place, it's in the corner behind you." As they walk away, June pulls a grimace and says, "Too bad he's taken." Nerda swallows his drink all at once and places the money on the counter. "Thanks. He seems like the kind of man I like. What are your thoughts?" "He's going to stir things up. He seems more seasoned than he appears and carries the demeanor of a veteran war hero, despite looking no older than 25. He's a good guy to befriend, but you'd want to avoid making him an enemy," the bartender admits. "Yeah, that's the impression I got too," she says as they look over the board. "What's this all about regarding the almighty log?" asked Nerda. Lightly, he laughs. "You did hear me say Kami at one point, right?" Shinji used to say he was flattered, but it took me some time to understand why. Now, 4,000 years later, some things have changed while others have not, and I find it amusing that one thing changed so little yet remains just as funny. She nods. Kami is a goddess, although she doesn't reside in the mortal realm like I do. The log is a mortal concept, and it seems the joke has taken on a more religious significance. She tilts her head. "You appear to be in a bad mood. Are you okay?" He frowns and looks at the board. June is right. There's a lot of work here, and not all of it is good work. Well, at least we have enough to make a choice. He responds with a smile. When I started my training, I used an alias to avoid people I didn't want to see until I was ready. I think it might be a good idea to use it again. Fine, just bad memories. Hell, 1,000 years brings both good and bad if you can believe it. She exclaims. Birato Superaru, blood spiral? It feels kind of grim. He admits. Yeah, it was a grim time. My first training site was in the middle of a civil war that had begun before I was born. I chose it because I would be spilling blood, and I was proud to be an Uzumaki. She nods and smiles. And what about me? I name, der bei denen fein den Furchteinfarkt, und von denen, die du beschützen willst, innen Zugfugt, Kuramuza no Akumu, the Crimson Nightmare. Ich have dir tatsächlich ein Geschenk mitgebracht. Nerdirektor ein Mask, which is similar to Kakashi's, but blutrot gefarbt and with golden Rosenranken bestickt. He concurs, saying, It's something my mother would admire. She holds the device in her hands and beams. It's beautiful and terrifying simultaneously. Except when we're by ourselves, wear it with pride. Like Azula or Mai. She answers, putting the mask on her face as he holds up a mirror. It's a seal I added to the mask, she says, taking a deep breath at what she sees. It's its purpose to instill fear and conceal our identities from those who are familiar with us. It only creates an illusion, it does nothing. What do you think? I created that illusion based on a few of my friends. The hair color is my sister Karen's, the ponytails belong to the 5th headmaster, the samban was inspired by Haku, and the eyes are a blend of Yujito Ni's and my own Shinjigen. To anyone unfamiliar with it, your voice will also sound different. He smirks. She now has golden eyes that resemble cat eyes and blood-red hair styled in twin tails filled with samban. Has one been put on your mask? He nods and raises his mask. His appearance changes little aside from his hair and eyes. His eyes turn crimson and become slitted, think Kyuubi, while his hair sweeps back into spikes that resemble a dragon's head. Additionally, his mask features 3 lines on each cheek that look like a fox's whiskers. Cool, June comes up behind them and nods. I agree, it's a nice look. To which they respond. Thanks. She then asks, have you two decided on a job yet? He nods. Finding and apprehending a serial rapist is worthwhile. He's been active for a while and has recently targeted a nobleman's daughter, making the bounty worth the effort. Plus, I detest rapists more than I do bullies. Dead or alive? June whistles in gratitude. Nice name, but why the aliases? Alive brings the Depel Belanung Iin ist ein weiter Herausforderung das Gebrauchen Tylee. Oder soll ich pure Musan no Akumu nennen? Tylee shakes her head and responds. Not really, just avoiding them until I'm more confident in myself. So bossy friends who think they know what's best or want to drag you into something you dislike. I can respect that. I'll keep your secret. Thanks, June. She waves it off. Mind if I join you? I'm very interested in you too and would like to see how you work. Tylee looks at Nerdu and Nix. Klar, was the answer. Nerdu sees an animal he has never seen before as they are leaving the bar. Oh, that's Nyla. Despite being blind, Shirshu are able to detect scents. As long as they recognize the scent, they can find anyone. Shirshus have poison barbs on their tongues that carry a paralytic, and they are ferocious and devoted to people they don't know. A few years ago, I paid a reward to a collector of unusual animals for her. I then skinned him and let his animals go. Since then, Nyla has become a close buddy. Nerdu says, grinning as he walks right up to her. June almost freaks out, but Nyla just whimpers and rubs her head against his palm. June smiles and hops upon her, saying, Wow, that's a first. Every animal knows a friend and an alpha. To her, I'm family and a sibling just like your mistress and sister. Nerdu glances at Tylee, who responds with a giggle. She says, Kiramuzan no Akumukai. Then, with a nod, Tylee makes the ram sign with his hand. Leave. She feels lighter than ever after turning off her resistance seals. She turns to June and smiles under her mask, saying, If you can, keep up. June is amazed at how quickly she sprints through the trees. Nerdu laughs. June smiles in expectation of what will happen as he chases after Tylee, saying, You'd get used to things like that around me. They tracked their target for many days before setting up camp. Nerdu was not present as Tylee and June talked about their pasts. They hurried to look into the source of the explosion after hearing it abruptly. They found Nerdu sitting in a small burning crater with a burned hand, babbling about fire-sucking jerks, stupid comets, and messed up control when they arrived at the explosion site. Are you alright, Nerdu? June raises an eyebrow as he looks at them, frowns, and then heals his hand. Apologies, yeah? I'm just experimenting a bit, but the one I want most is tough without control and it's frustrating me. I've seen some of your spirit art, but nothing that inflicts damage like this. He gives a nod. It's one of my father's creations. He designed it based on the tailed beast bomb. Do you remember when I mentioned that to you? She smiles. A Biju's most powerful attack can wipe out a city in an instant. Yeah, the wind ball is a smaller version. He responds, creating an illusion that shows them the legendary Sannin performing the attack when he was younger. He laughs when June asks him if it was his father. Thank Kami, no. That was the legendary Sannin. He was Dad's teacher and later mine too. He's also my no-good, super perverted godfather. Tylee looks at him with a scowl. You've told me about him but never with that kind of anger in your voice. What do you mean by no good? He looks at her with a tear in his eye and sighs. I suppose it's time I tell you about my childhood, isn't it? Shall I go? He shakes his head and remarks. This seems a bit private. You might not believe what I have to say anyhow, so it's okay. He begins by narrating the history of Shinobi up until his own birth, including the beginnings of core energy and the Biju. You better sit down, it's a long and unhappy story. Our Kage, who was supposed to serve the people, used Shinobi as village tools to suit his whims. The people didn't realize that we were weapons, me more than most. I was perceived as a monster, the Kyuubi, a demon in human form, instead of the hero my father wanted me to be. I was born on the same day it attacked the village, you see. My parents died sealing it, and the headmaster told them the beast was sealed away by the fourth, but as much as they revered him, they believed a child's mind could not hold such a demon at bay, and so to them I was the demon. I lived as an orphan for the first 4 years, being abused by the matrons and the other children, though they didn't know why. The law forbade anybody telling the children of me under pain of death, because of who my father was. I wasn't to know who my parents were either, for fear his enemies might target me. If you think that's bad, it gets worse. He depicts his life in a Gen spirit artwork. They threw me out onto the street when I was 4 years old. They said that a demon can survive on his own if he is able to walk and speak. Before the Ikarakas discovered me, I continued to eat garbage for 4 more years. When others weren't, Tucci and Ayam showed me kindness. Tucci treated me like a son, yet she bathed me and treated me like a brother. They were my first cherished people, and I ate at their small shanty for years. I was unaware that my dining there was costing them money and driving away their other patrons. When they were 12, a group of people approached them and offered to keep them in business and pay off their debts provided they helped drug me. They consented on the condition that I would only sustain minor cuts and bruises. I was led to a dark room, chained to a table, and stripped, although Ayam didn't know. They began tormenting me with poison, burns, cuts, and even acid for hours after I woke up. Every time I fainted, they allowed me to recover with the demon's assistance before beginning anew when I regained consciousness. Only when they had had enough did they attempt to murder me, but by then the Umbu had come and slaughtered them. I found out later that they had been sent by Ayam. It was too late by then, and although I ultimately came to forgive them, my trust had been permanently damaged. I quit eating ramen completely, which was fortunate for me because it was keeping me a shrimp. I continued to be the cheerful fool while I was in the academy. The majority of my pals have deceived me and hurt, or troubled me. I grew cool over time, distancing myself and showing no emotion even though I was still feeling things. Many were intimidated by this, and it was effective for me. After graduating, I discovered the reason behind their hatred. I had a QB locked inside of me. I continued to have some hope, although a small one, in spite of everything. When Orochimaru was exposed as a criminal from the Leaf who broke in to target Naruto's friend following the training ninja tests, that changed. He tried to break my core energy by applying a 5-element seal, but he made a mistake, which allowed the Shinju enough time to take control and awaken inside of me. He started by telling me about my parents after the second phase. Everyone knew that day that I was angry. The headmaster refused to explain why he had concealed my parents' existence from me, and Kakashi had declined to train me. A perverse jounin who was more of a joke was my sole choice for training. I had no idea that day that I would meet the legendary Sannin. After advancing to the finals, Naruto's friend faced the Sand King, a Jinchuriki who was on the verge of going insane due to a defective seal. The invasion began as soon as the battle became interesting. While the headmaster fought Orochimaru, my crew and I chased the Sand King. I vanquished the Sand King and altered his conception of real power. Years would pass before I learned that he had become a close friend of mine and the Kage of his village. The headmaster, meanwhile, lost his life battling his student. Apart from the effort to reinstate the fifth headmaster as headmaster, little much happened in the ensuing months. After going insane, Nida's companion fled the hamlet to pursue power from Orochimaru over a year later. I was given the task of capturing him, and I succeeded, but this was my last act of treachery. I was expelled from the Leaf Village by the daimyo after the civilian council persuaded them to do so. But I was happy to go. With the help of the fifth headmaster, I took back my parental inheritance and left with a few reliable companions. Before determining whether to remain with me or go back to the Leaf, they were to train and guard me for 5 years. He spent the night telling the story of his survival voyage before falling asleep. By the end, June was enraged as Ty Lee gave him a lap hug. After the nations united under Yuzu, peace reigned. Ninja took on roles as peacekeepers and emergency services. The Leaf thrived again, and everything was well. I can put up with perverts as long as they don't touch me, but abandoning a child is out of the question. And what that village did? Growling, what's the deal with the Leaf anyway? I slept knowing that I would wake up for any significant confrontation, content that this would go on for a long time. Ty Lee nods. But Suzan had other plans. Rita goes on. He locked away my power in a passing comet that he used to ignite his war, and he sealed me while I was sleeping. Then, Ty Lee, you discovered me. As far as I can tell, the old Leaf Village and the Land of Fire merged to form the Fire Nation, with the capital built over what was left of the Leaf. He smiles and gives her a kiss on the head. I'm curious as to whether Hyde Ninja Village Emeru ever achieved his goal of becoming headmaster. While attempting to settle disputes during the first 100 years or so, I lost sight of what was happening in the Leaf. Do you know if I am also descended from 2 of your own pals, because you indicated that Ty Lee was? I'm curious because I've never known family. Nerda smirks. June, why do you think I trust you? I don't know, you probably shouldn't. He smiles. Anko once said the same thing. I see so much of her in you. Ty Lee gasps and covers her mouth. What? Is there something I'm missing? Nerda told me about her, Anko Mitarashi, a snake summoner and expert in interrogation and assassination. She is also a poison expert and Nuda's teacher, close friend, and later lover. She was one of the women his first wife, the first in fact. If you are descended from her then. Nuda nods and smiles. Hello June Mitarashi Uzumaki, child of my children. June couldn't think of anything to say because everything in her world had just fallen apart. I have family? Enko wasn't either, unless it was sexual or intended to make someone uncomfortable. Just take it as it is and know you can talk to me if you need to. He smirks. I have to admit, I'm not sure how to respond to that. I guess the right response would be an embrace, but I'm not really a hugging person. She smiles, and they all retire for the night. While Tylee does yoga and acrobatics, Nuda spends 2 hours meditating. You have a great balance, she says, and Nuda responds. Thank you. How much have you read so far? The majority of my clone are finished, only a few more are interested in the history. I was never a fan of history. The people who are always running around are insomnicuran. Seltsamer-wise, I was able to find broader information. Ja, Tylee says with her eyes darkening. Nuda places a map of the countries on the table to illustrate the scope of the changes. It appears as though the land masses drastically shifted and the continent fractured. It's a map that's been around for 1,000 years, and as far as I know, it's still quite accurate, murmurs Tylee. Does it truly differ that much? Very. The Fire Nation drifted far west, while lightning and the majority of smaller nations merged into stone and became earth. Nuda says, breaking a seal on a map and comparing it to the one before it. Yuzu was engulfed in flames as the water split north and south. Wind split into air in the east and west. It seems as though something changed the way the world works, causing the spirits to protest and split the planet. A change like that, unless it happened over 1,000 years or more or was planned for, would kill off millions. Humans would have been an endangered species. Tylee replies. They were before the time of the Avatar. Most think it's all just a load of crap though. I don't think the Avatar even knows the legends giving credence to such things. Nuda beams. No telling what carries over in a cycle of rebirth like that. Orochimaru would have killed for that kind of power, and I know for a fact he did. As he packs everything and turns to face Tylee, he says, Okay, I'm ready to go. Where do you think we ought to head? Well, since the Air Nation is gone and the Water Nation has been a bit reclusive lately, why not explore into the Earth Nation? Tylee asks, stroking her chin thoughtfully, and Nuda nods. Are there any things you need to do before we leave? She grumbles. I need to get my things together and, even if I don't like them, I should bid farewell to my sisters. They get to Tylee's house as the sun is almost down, and while she is gathering her belongings, Nuda waits outside. Just as she is about to finish, Jane comes in and looks at her for 3 minutes. She asks, Was Mox Dude? A Bryson? And my team? You've only just met him. Sure, he's cute, but what do you see in him anyway? Nuda smiles. Family matters even if you're not fond of them. I'm starting to like you more and more. Which makes Tylee flush. Well, let's see. I'm strong, intelligent, self-assured, and most importantly, I don't fear my family. I know I haven't been a good sister, but I can't just let you go with him. Jane adds, looking down in shame. Tylee approaches her sister, gives her a hug, and says, I will always love you, but this is my choice. You don't even know him. Goodbye, Jane. Tylee runs out the door, Jane right behind her, and she yells. If you don't listen to me, then you've left me no choice. I will challenge him. Nuda pulls his eyes together. Why? She is my sister, she doesn't know you. How can we be sure that you can protect her? She may trust you, but do you have the strength to keep her safe? Show me. Nuda smiles. Nuda laughs. Sure, I have more agility and flexibility, but she has the strength. Being strong is not always the best option. Instead of a challenge or a fight, he spins around, swinging his arms in a spiral motion to knock her off balance before striking her arms, then flips and brings his foot down hard onto her stomach, leaving her in a crater, dazed and feeble. He takes a stance that none of them have ever seen before as he advances. Jane assumes the family stance before charging at him, but even in his weakened state, she is approaching him slowly. Well, making a tenuous reference to the Goken, I was right about your ancestry. Tenten would be offended by your lack of respect, and Rock Lee would be ashamed of your tardiness, but they would both be proud of your loyalty to your family. Tylee will be nearly unrecognizable to you the next time you see her. Her strength will be unimaginable. I promise to protect her till then, and Uzumaki never betrays a pledge. Tylee asks during the release. I've never seen. What was it? Yuzuken, Spiral Fist. My mother created it, and it instilled fear in others. Mado Gai was her student and adapted the Goken from it, sacrificing lateral mobility for increased strength and speed. Only an Uzumaki can wield the true Yuzuken, so he fashioned the Goken to resemble it. Your family style is loosely based on the Goken as I mentioned with other elements incorporated. It appears that we have a lot to be thankful for from your friends and family. That's the way it is when you save and change the world. Even in my lifetime, I witnessed that some notable people had an influence even after they died, such as the first headmaster. He was the driving force behind the village system. That makes sense. It's too late to catch a boat now, and I'd prefer not to return, so what do we do now? Naruto laughs near the pier. Watch. Wow, Gibby s urgent etwas das du nicht kannst? He asks, slamming his hands into the sand just before a wooden house appears in front of them. Not much at full power, but yeah, there will always be something I can't do. He laughs. I'm very impatient. I think it's an Uzumaki thing, but apparently I've surpassed my mother in that regard. I've improved, but sitting still is still a challenge for me. She smiles. I can relate. He responds as they enter. That's the impact of Lee. Even after Sand King had broken his back, as soon as he could move, he was doing one-arm push-ups. He says after they enter. Then she laughs quietly, and then she gasps when she sees the house. Wow, I know people who would do anything for a house like this. It's simple but has a nice vibe and is spacious. He says, nodding. Wood style is greatly inspired by nature, making any house built with it feel like part of the environment. Come on, wait until you see the bedrooms. She blushes. Are you saying we're not sleeping together? Naruto raises an eyebrow. She shakes her head. Nix so ich hab. Nach einen Freund gehabt, ich will einfach mal kuscheln. She says. Naruto gives her a hug and kisses her head. It's all good, I was only joking. If you're comfortable enough with that, then sure. He says. They are awakened by the loud knock on the door, and Naruto groans. I've never been a morning person. Ty Lee chuckles and responds. Pack your things. I bet that's someone who's not happy we're here. She nods and follows him to the door, which he opens to reveal 2 Fire Nation soldiers. May I help you? He asks. This land belongs to the Fire Lord. You built this house here, but why? The troops comply, their eyes widening as the house shrinks and the sand appears to grow backwards. Entschuldigung, ich wusste es nicht. Tritt einen Moment zurück, dann mache ich das wieder gut. He says, opening his eyes. He clops his head, smiles, and says, Entschuldigung für die Jamal, we machen uns jetzt auf dem Weg. The soldier yells at him to stop before he has taken 10 paces, and he moans. Yes? How about joining the Fire Nation's military? Naruto scowls. We can always use strong people. There are many reasons, primarily because I am not a fire bender. No matter how strong or useful I am, I will always be looked down upon and excluded from power, and I hate that. He says. I have a grudge against the Fuhrer Lords and Drittens because everything I have learned about the Fuhrer Nation as a whole has been challenged. He says. If you are against the fire, you are a foe. He says, as he gives the man an urn. How can I make you stop bothering me? Ich vor der Dike zu einer Agnikai heraus. Sagter. Ein was? The second soldier, turning to Ty Lee and sweating profusely, inquires. Is he serious? Agnikai is essentially a fire duel, which is used to settle disputes in one-on-one combat. Although it is mainly used by high-ranking officers and members of the royal family to restore their honor after being slandered, it is not uncommon for it to occur among lower ranks, she says, shrugging her shoulders without wanting to elaborate. Naruto nods in agreement, saying, So as long as I fight and knock him on his ass, it doesn't matter if I'm not a bender? She replies with a nod. More or less the point. While the second soldier frowns and says, He's behaving as if this is no problem. Is he really that good? Are you acquainted with Jane A? He replies with a nod. Isn't that true for all Ember Islanders? He frowns even more as she smirks and says, She challenged him yesterday. What was his performance like? He left her in a crater, defeated her in less than 2 seconds, and looked effortless. She didn't even come close to making contact with him. The man, who has turned pale behind his mask, smiles and says, Dann das ja am nicht sein, Zuschauen. Ty Lee chuckles. I take it that you don't like your friend? He's no friend. His dad is a big shot general, and it's gone to his head. He said, shaking his head. He is a skilled bender, but even in the best of situations, I can't stand him. The firebender launches a fireball at Ty Lee, causing him to squint. Naruto avoids the blow and charges at the man, kicking him multiple times in the chin before launching himself off the ground behind him, entangling him in bandages before crashing into the sand. The man is rendered unconscious when Naruto flips backwards into his stance. Did he defeat Jane in that manner? The man responds. No, he used something else, but this was equally impressive. I don't think he likes to waste time in a battle unless he's enjoying himself. Hey Naruto, what was that? It resembled my style. Was it Goken? Lolt. Yes, it is the primary lotus in the Goken style. Your speed and power will treble when you open the first core energy gate, allowing you to use primary lotus. That collision would have killed him in any other setting, but on this soft sand, he will simply wake up with a headache and a strained neck. Are you going to show me how to do that? She asks with a smile as the soldier leads his friend away. Yes, when you're ready. The gates are considered conspirat art because they put a lot of strain on the body. Opening all 8 will make you equal to a god, but it will cost you your life. Can spirit art? Forbidden spirit art, it's not what it seems. Only 1 or 2 spirit arts have been declared truly forbidden for moral reasons, and those are can spirit art because of their cost, which can be death like the Reaper Death Seal, damage to the body like the 8 Celestial Gates, or high core energy like my shadow clone. By the way, my father died, if you're wondering, that's how he died. What time does the training start? As they travel for a week, they get to know one another quite well. Naruto tells her about the history of ninja and their actions, some of which shock her a little but not too much. She shares information about her family and the Fire Nation, and he is relieved to hear that things aren't totally bad. When we're in Dire Nation, müssen ich auch einige minor Fähigkeiten auffrischen. Wir brauchen auch einen Ort, a dem wir nicht zu viel aufsehen errichten oder Schaden anrichten, ein Boot einit sich dafür nicht. She and Nick say. After a week, they arrive at a remote valley far from all habitations and begin training. Naruto uses core energy control and reapplies his resistance seals, which appear to have weakened over time. With her understanding of the human body and chi, the new name for core energy, Tyler almost instantly releases her core energy, which he thought would work similarly even though the energy was different. He shook his head and said, "More core energy means less control, while less means more. For example, Sakura had small reserves but perfect control. I could use spirit art all day, but she could cast one using far less core energy. Nice, it took me a month to learn that," he said as she practiced the first control exercise of leaf balancing after he had unlocked her core energy, or chi. "Are you serious?" "What for?" "No, you can train it just like anything else. The more you use it, the more you'll get back. You have chi instead of core energy like I do," he added. "Is it different?" he asks. "It feels different and has a different energy, but the pathways and functionality are identical, so why not call it core energy? The leaf balancing exercise demonstrates this. If it didn't function the same way, it wouldn't work at all. Consider it like this: if the operation is exactly the same, you could use multiple elements like me. You'd be the first aside from the Avatar in thousands of years." Her pupils dilate. "Is that true? Cool." In the Hyde Ninja Village, one of the criteria for achieving Jounin rank was the ability to control 2 or more elements. Only a few exceptions existed, such as the Hyuga, who didn't use standard spirit art. Naruto says with a smile at her excitement. So what elements were included? The fundamental elements that everyone could learn were earth, wind, fire, water, and lightning. Then the sub-elements appeared. Tile element? What is that? Keki Genkai or Blood Linean? He asks. While certain lineages allowed a to spirit art, others offered skills like being extremely fast and turning into smoke, or absorbing natural energy to become a supercharged berserk monster. He smiles. Then came the sub-elements. Wood style was the first I heard of, but I hadn't seen it yet. You use wood style, don't you? Which other ones exist? He asks with a smile. To mention a few, ice, boil, lava, explosion, and crystal are among the more intriguing. What gives them the moniker sub-elements? For instance, wood is a combination of earth and water, ice is a combination of water and wind, crystal is a combination of earth and lightning, lava is a combination of earth and fire, and boil is a combination of fire and water. These are referred to as bloodlines because you can only use one element at a time and a bloodline is required to combine elements in your body. If it wasn't wood, what was the first one you saw? She responds. Wow, Haku seems like a nice girl. He says with a smile as he remembers his first C-rank assignment to Wave. She's one of the girls from the hall I went into, right? My first wife was okay with sharing. He smiles. And I had a lot of girls who really loved me at the time, not just crushes. I made it clear that Samui was always my top priority, but they wanted to be with me anyway. Heh, Samui changed their minds when she got kinky. No girl remained purely straight after encountering her. Tylee shudders. What made Haku claim to be a boy? Zabuza was never really into girls, and she didn't want to burden him with that. Naruto sighs. Additionally, being kidnapped and sexually assaulted was one of a kunoichi's biggest worries. Therefore, behaving like a male lessened the likelihood of that occurring. Why would people act in such a way? Do you remember what I said about Hinata being kidnapped by Kumo breeders? I'm not saying it was right, but it happened. There were definitely worse fates, though. I'm almost afraid to ask, but like what? He laughs. She is grinning. Maybe, but in military strategy, it's common to seize a weapon and make it your own. For them, the ends justified the means. Fortunately, after the incident involving the Hyuga, Kumo lost faith in the third Reikage and had him executed. The fourth was somewhat of a brute, but he was a much better person, and that practice ceased. I'm glad such things ended with the shinobi from this war. They would have been far worse. She complains. I'll start you on the next exercise tomorrow. I want you master it before I. Naruto smiles as he approaches a tree, carefully scales its trunk, and stands beneath an upside-down branch, asking, What's the next exercise? Wow, he says. After a week. As Tylee struggles to maintain her balance while standing on water, Nida smiles and remarks, "Nice. For most people, it takes months to reach this stage, but you've done it in a week. You have talent." When she reaches the shore, he hands her a towel and says, "Don't worry, do it enough and it becomes second nature." Lachter und stirs sofort ins Wasser. When she considers that, she gives him a startled look and furrows her brow. "Are you serious?" "Das kann ich mir nicht vorstellen," he says. "And het die Augenbraw. What's stopping us? You carry out everyday tasks automatically, and even though you know how to throw a punch, do you ever have to consciously think about it in the moment? What about breathing?" She shrugs and smiles. "In Ordnung, was common ALSness?" He smiles. "Mein Lieblingsfach, nen Spiritkunst." After a month of separating from towns and people, Tylee's training went well. Nida's core energy control met his standards once more, and they were prepared to start looking for a job. The perverse Weiss said immer, that man a spur or information in Bessen in einem Bordell, or einer Bar fand. "Da ich nicht wirklich an Bordell, let uns nehmen einen Drink," said Tylee. "Persönlich have ich nichts gegen Bordell, aber die Leute dort sind nicht mein Ding," she added. "Would you be shocked to learn that the women of the red light district almost raised me?" "Yes, it would, but legends don't usually include that sort of thing," she asks, arching an eyebrow. "Then you know people well. Sometimes the best individuals are found dirty in the gutter," he says. "You paint a pretty picture. I would have said the truth lies in darkness, but I developed a poetic streak some time ago." She smirks. "I'm June." Nurda shakes her hand and responds, "Nurda. This is Tylee. We're mercenaries looking for work. I work as a bounty hunter most of the time, but when I can't find something better, I take on mercenary employment. The Earth Nation has an abundance of it. What is your area of expertise? An assassin? Leibmunter? Spy work? In my opinion, anything is okay, but I steer clear of assassination unless I think the victim merits it or it serves a higher good. I would take on a few bodyguards or catch bounties first because Tylee is only getting started." "What does higher purpose entail, just to be clear? You're not an extreme religious person, are you?" Tylee laughs as he complains. "Is all that praise directed to the almighty log idiots? Nope, what I mean is if killing one guy can save 100 or an entire nation, even if he's a really nice guy, he's dead," she replies. "So, a man of principles?" Tylee notices that Nuda's memory is faulty as his eyes begin to dim. "No, I just ended the lives of too many innocents at the behest of those who shouldn't have been in charge. I rest easier knowing I've saved more lives than I've taken." He continues. "So you're a man with regrets? I can understand that. By the way, in every town and city you visit, there will be a job board. This kind of place often has one. It's behind you in the corner." June pulls a face and says, "Too bad he's taken." As they leave, "He looks like the kind of man I enjoy. What are your thoughts?" As they gaze at the board, the bartender nods and replies, "He's going to make some waves. He seems more experienced than he appears and has the look of a veteran war hero, even though he looks like he's no older than 25. He's a good guy to befriend, but you definitely want to avoid making him an enemy," she says. In Nerd, "What happened to the all-powerful log?" He giggles and says, "You caught my mention of Cammy earlier, yeah?" She beams. "Cammy is a goddess, though she doesn't live in the mortal realm like me. The log is a mortal concept, and it seems the joke took on a more religious ideal." She raises her head. "Shinju was a tree before he was absorbed by a mortal. Once Shinobi developed the replacement spirit art and started using it on logs, people used to joke about praising the almighty log. Nobody ever could explain why a log could still be used even if there was no wood around, so the joke went even further over time. Shinji used to say he was flattered, though it took me a while to understand why. Now 4,000 years later, and some things are not what they were, I find it amusing that one thing changed so little and yet is still just as funny." "Are you okay? You seem to be in a dark place. Are you alright?" "All right, just unpleasant recollections. Hee, if you can believe it, a millennium brings both good and bad things," she says with a smile. Nuda kisses her cheek and says, "You know if you ever need to talk." "Thanks." He frowns as he looks at the board. June is correct. There's a lot of work here, and not all of it is good work. Well, at least we have enough to make a choice. He smiles. To avoid those I didn't want to see until I was ready, I adopted an alias when I first started my training. I believe that using it once more could be a good idea. Are you serious? What was that? The blood spiral and Burato Superu? It seems a bit gloomy, she replies, grinning. It was a dismal period. My initial training site was a civil war that had been happening since before my birth. I picked it since I would be bleeding blood and I was a proud Uzumaki. What about me? Her name is Kirimuza no Akumu, the Crimson Nightmare. Tatsuklik ein Geschenk für Dike. In addition, she has a mask that resembles a Kakashi, but it is blue-trot and has golden roses adhered to it. I put a seal in the mask. It doesn't change anything. It's just an illusion. What do you think? She exclaims, shocked at what she sees. It's beautiful and scary all at once, she says, holding it. It's something my mother would value, don it with pride except when we're alone. It's meant to instill fear while also concealing our identities from those familiar with us, like Azula or Mai. Wie ein Schmunzelter. The eyes are a combination of Yujito Ni's and my own Shinjigen. That illusion was based on a few of my friends. Has one been put on your mask? The only things that change are his eyes and hair, which turn crimson and slitted, think Kyubi, and his hair spikes back like a dragon's head. Cool. June comes up behind him and nods, saying, I agree, it's a nice look. Thanks. The other responds. So, have you two picked a job yet? He nodded, saying, It's worth it to track down a serial rapist who has been active for a while and lately attacked the daughter of a nobleman. I hate rapists even more than bullies, and the bounty makes the hassle worthwhile. Dead or alive? Yeah, but alive brings the double blessing in and is an additional challenge. That's what worries me. Should I call them Kurimuzan no Akumu? June complains with pleasure. Nice name, but why the aliases? Tylee has some well-known friends. We would prefer not to find her until she is prepared. On the run? Tylee exhales. Not really. I'm just steering clear of them until I feel more confident. So friends who are overly controlling and believe they have all the answers or try to get you involved in things you despise, I can respect that. Your secret is safe with me. Thanks, June. She shrugs. Is it okay if I tag along? Tylee looked at Naruto and said, I'm curious about you too and would like to see how you work. Sure. This is Nyla, a Shirshu. She is blind, but she can find anyone as long as she knows the Jarek. She is loyal and growsome to people she doesn't know. Your Zunj has gift station with a Lamungsmittel. I have been using it for a reward from a Samla rare tier for a few years. I have since gotten rid of him and released his tier. Since then, Nyla has been a good friend of mine, says Nerdu, grinning as she leaves the bar. June nearly panics, but Nyla just whimpers and presses her head against his hand. Wow, that's unprecedented. Every animal knows a friend and an alpha. To her, I'm family and a brother just as you are mistress and sister. June laughs and climbs on top of her. Do you all have a ride? Nida looks at Tylee, who laughs. Kurimuzan no Akumukai. Nods and makes a ram sign. Release. She turns to June, smiling under her mask. Keep up if you can. And runs through the trees at a speed that surprises June. You get used to things like that around me. Laughs Nerdu. This is going to be interesting. As he chases after Tylee and June smiles. After several days of pursuing their target, they set up camp, with Tylee and June chatting about their pasts while Nerdu is alone. They all hear an explosion and rush to the scene, where they find Nerdu sitting in a small smoking crater with his hand burned and muttering about stupid comets, fire-sucking assholes, and messed-up control. Ist bei dir alles in Ordnung, Nerdu? He asks, frowning before he heals his hand, raising June's eyebrows. Sorry, yeah, I'm just trying a few out. The one I want most is difficult without control, and it's frustrating me. It's one of my father's inventions, he says, nodding. The tailed beast bomb served as a model for his design. Do you recall when I told you about that? She replies with a nod. A Biju's most potent strike can obliterate a city in an instant. Exactly, the wind ball is a miniature version. He adds as he conjures an illusion depicting the legendary Sannin as a child. When June inquires if that was his father, he chuckles and responds. Thank Kami no! Legendary Sannin was that person. He taught both my father and me. Tylee scowls and takes a seat beside him. He's also my no-good, super perverted godfather. He sighs and looks at her as he says, I guess it's time I told you about my childhood, right? Am I supposed to go? This comes to me a little bit, privately, he says, shaking his head. It's okay, you might find what I'm about to say hard to believe. You should sit down, though, it's a long and unhappy story, he says. He starts by explaining the history of Shinobi up until his birth, covering the origins of core energy and the Biju. Shinobi were Worksage de Dwarfs, dem willen unsers Kagezu dienen, der Volk. It's a waff, I'm more than most, but the people don't understand, he says. I was born on the same day it attacked the village you see. My parents died sealing it and the headmaster told them the beast was sealed away by the fourth, but as much as they revered him, they believed a child's mind could not hold such a demon at bay, and so to them I was the demon. I lived as an orphan for the first 4 years, being abused by the matrons and the other children, though they didn't know why. The law forbade anybody telling the children of me under pain of death, because of who my father was. I wasn't to know who my parents were either, for fear his enemies might target me. If you find something already terrible, it will get worse. He creates a spirit to illustrate this point. She has been stealing me from the street for 4 years. If a demon can go and steal, then he can also live alone. He has been stealing me for 4 more years until the Ikarakas found me. Tucci and I were net to me, but the others weren't. She has been stealing me and treating me like a brother, Tucci like a son. I have been in their little butte for years. They were my first valuable people, and it was unclear that their other customers had stolen my essence. When I was 12 years old, a group of people approached them and offered to pay off their debts and keep them in business if they helped drug me. They agreed on the condition that I wouldn't suffer more than minor cuts and bruises. Despite Iam's ignorance, I was taken to a dark room, strapped to a table, and stripped. When I woke up, they began torturing me for hours with poison, burns, cuts, and even acid. Whenever I passed out, they allowed me to recover with the demon before beginning again when I woke up. They only attempted to kill me when they had already been killed by the Umbu. I later found out that Iam was the one who sent them, but it was too late. I finally forgave them, but my trust was lost forever, and I stopped eating ramen altogether, which turned out to be a good thing because it was keeping me a shrimp. I was the happy idiot at the academy, and most of my friends betrayed me and caused me pain or trouble. I gradually grew cold. Even though I still felt things, I kept my distance and showed nothing. This intimidated a lot of people, and it worked for me. After graduation, I discovered why they hated me. I discovered the QB sealed within me. I did, however, have some hope, albeit a small one, which changed after the training ninja exams when Orochimaru was exposed as a criminal from the Leaf who broke in to target Naruto's friend and used the 5-element seal to disrupt my core energy. But he made a mistake, which allowed the Shinju to seize its power and awaken within me. After the second phase, the first thing he did was tell me about my parents, and I was furious that day, and everyone knew it. Kakashi had refused to train me, and the headmaster would not explain why he kept my parents' existence a secret from me, so my only choice for training was a perverted jounin who was more of a joke. I didn't know I would meet the legendary Sannin that day. Skipping to the finals, in the final round, Naruto's friend faced the Sand King, a Jinchuriki with a defective seal driving him nearly insane. As soon as the fight got interesting, the invasion started. I pursued the Sand King with my team while the headmaster battled Orochimaru. I defeated the Sand King and changed his perspective on true power. He eventually became his village's Kage and a close friend of mine, but I wouldn't learn of this until years later. Meanwhile, the headmaster died fighting his pupil. Apart from the mission to restore the 5th headmaster as headmaster, not much happened in the months that followed. Almost a year later, Nuda's friend went insane and left the village to pursue power from Orochimaru. I was tasked with capturing him, which was my last act of treachery. The civilian council persuaded the daimyo to banish me from the Leaf village, but I was happy to leave. I reclaimed my parental inheritance and left with a small group of trusted allies, who were to train and protect me for 5 years before deciding whether to stay with me or return to the Leaf. I don't mind perverts as long as they don't touch me, but it's not acceptable to abandon a child. What did that village do? What's the point of the Leaf, anyway? Peace reigned, ninjas acted as emergency responders and peacekeepers, the Leaf blossomed once more, and all was fine once the nations came together under Yuzu. He described his voyage until the conclusion of his slumber, saying, I was satisfied that this state of affairs would last for a long time, and slept knowing I would awaken for any major conflict. June was furious as the evening came to an end, and Tylee got on his lap and gave him a hug. When Tylee says, but Suzan had different plans, Nuda responds, kissing her forehead and grinning broadly. He sealed me while I was asleep, trapped my powers in a passing comet that he used to ignite his war. Then you found me, Tylee. You know the rest. As far as I can tell, the old Leaf village and the Land of Fire merged to form the Fire Nation, with the capital being constructed over what was left of the Leaf village. I wonder if Hyde Ninja Village Emperor ever became headmaster as he wished. I lost track of events in the Leaf during those first 100 years or so while trying to resolve conflicts. I've never known family, so I'm curious. Nerdu chuckles. Since you mentioned that Tylee was a descendant of 2 of your own friends, do you know if I am as well? June, why do you think I trust you? She scowls. I'm not sure. You probably shouldn't, he says with a broad smile. Anko once said the same thing. I see so much of her in you. Tylee gasps and covers her mouth. What? Is there something I'm missing? Nerdu erzit mir von Anko Mitarashi, einer Schlangenbeschwörerin, Spezialistin für Veror und Auftragsmord sowie Expertin für Gift. Sie war Nerdu's Lehrerin, und Freundin und Geliet. June's entire world fell apart, leaving her dumbfounded. Do I have family? To be honest, I'm not sure how to react to that. He chuckles. I guess the proper reaction would be an embrace, but I'm not really a hugging person. Anko wasn't either, unless it was to make someone uncomfortable or for sexual purposes. They all go to sleep for the remainder of the evening after she brightens, saying, just accept it as it is and remember you have someone to talk to if you need it.